Picture this. A man is holding a gun. He's surrounded by police. He's angry, desperate, and threatening to kill a hostage. Everyone is screaming at him to drop the weapon. Commands, threats, logic, none of it is working. Then someone different walks up, an FBI negotiator. And instead of demanding anything, they say something that sounds completely backwards. He says, "It seems like you feel trapped, like no one's been listening to you." And something shifts. The man's grip loosens. His breathing slows. Within minutes, he surrenders peacefully. No force, no tricks, just words. What just happened? The FBI agent didn't win an argument. They did something more powerful. They made the other person feel understood. And that changes everything. This is about the secret technique that FBI negotiators use when lives are on the line. The same technique you can use when the stakes are much lower but still matter to you. Because whether you're trying to resolve a fight with your partner, or negotiate a raise, or get your teenager to listen, the psychology is exactly the same. People don't change their minds because you're right. They change their minds because they feel heard. And once you understand how to make someone feel heard, you don't just win arguments. You stop needing to have them. Let's talk about why most arguments fail before they even start. Think about the last argument you had. A real one, where you felt strongly about something and the other person felt just as strongly about the opposite. What happened? You presented your facts, your logic, your reasons. And they did the same. Both of you got louder, more frustrated, more certain that the other person just wasn't getting it. And by the end, both of you were more entrenched in your original position than when you started. Sound familiar? Here's why that happens. And it's not what you think. When someone disagrees with you, your brain doesn't hear their words as information. It hears them as a threat. Literally, your amygdala, the part of your brain that handles fear and survival, lights up the same way it would if someone was physically threatening you. This is called cognitive threat response. And it shuts down the part of your brain that can actually think rationally. So when you're trying to convince someone of something, and they're arguing back, you're not having a logical debate. You're both in survival mode, defending yourselves from attack, and you can't win an argument with someone who's in survival mode because they're not listening to your words. They're defending against them. This is the first thing FBI negotiators understand that most people don't. The goal is never to prove you're right. The goal is to make the other person feel safe enough to think clearly. Because only when someone feels safe can they actually hear you. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. Imagine someone says to you, "You never listen to me. You always interrupt. You don't care about what I have to say." What's your first instinct? Probably to defend yourself. That's not true. I do listen. You're the one who, and now you're in a fight. Both defending, both attacking, both getting nowhere. But an FBI negotiator would respond completely differently. They'd say, "It sounds like you have been feeling unheard. That must be really frustrating." Notice what they didn't do. They didn't agree. They didn't disagree. They didn't defend themselves. They just reflected back the emotion underneath the words. This is called tactical empathy, and it's the most powerful tool in negotiation psychology. Because when you reflect someone's emotion back to them, something magical happens in their brain. Their amygdala calms down, the threat response stops. And suddenly, they can think clearly again. They feel seen, and when people feel seen, they stop fighting. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. That sounds like manipulation. Like you're faking empathy just to get what you want. And I hear that concern. It's valid. But here's the difference. Manipulation is about making someone do what you want without them knowing. Tactical empathy is about understanding what they want so deeply that you can find a solution that works for both of you. The FBI doesn't use this to trick people. They use it because it's the only thing that actually works when someone is so upset they can't think straight. And the beautiful thing about tactical empathy is it works even if the other person knows you're using it. Because everyone wants to be understood. Even when they know what you're doing, it still feels good to be heard. Let me break down the specific technique. Because this isn't vague advice. This is a precise framework. It has 3 parts. And you can start using it today. Part 1. Label their emotions. This means putting words to what you think they're feeling. And you do it with a simple phrase. It sounds like. Or it seems like. Not you feel, because that can sound accusatory. But it sounds like or it seems like. It sounds like this situation has been really stressful for you. It seems like you're frustrated that things aren't moving faster. It sounds like you feel like your voice hasn't been heard. When you label someone's emotion accurately, their brain relaxes. Because being understood is one of the deepest human needs. And here's the key, you don't have to agree with their emotion. You just have to acknowledge it exists. Part 2. Use calibrated questions. These are questions that start with what or how. Never why. Why makes people defensive? It sounds like blame. But what and how sound curious, open. Safe. Instead of, why did you do that? Ask, what made you decide to do it that way? Instead of, why are you so upset? Ask, what about this situation is most frustrating for you? You can see the difference. Same information, completely different emotional response. Calibrated questions do something brilliant. They force the other person to think about your perspective without you having to argue for it. When you ask, how am I supposed to do that? You're not saying no, but you're making them realize. Their request might be unreasonable. When you ask, what would you like me to do? You're not arguing, but you're making them clarify what they actually want. FBI negotiators use these questions to guide people towards solutions without ever telling them what to do. Part 3. Get comfortable with silence. This is the hardest part for most people. We hate silence. It feels awkward, uncomfortable. So we fill it. We keep talking. We explain. We defend. But silence is where the magic happens. After you label an emotion or ask a calibrated question, stop talking. Wait. Let them process. Let them think. Let them fill the silence. Because when you rush to fill silence, you take away their space to actually think about what you said. But when you wait, they have to sit with your words. And that's when minds change. FBI negotiators will ask a question and then wait, sometimes for minutes, because they know whoever speaks first loses power. Now let's talk about what happens when someone gets really angry. Because that's when most people panic and make it worse. You probably heard the advice to stay calm when someone's yelling at you, which is good advice but completely unhelpful, because staying calm while someone screams at you feels impossible. Your own amygdala is screaming at you to fight back or run away. So here's what actually helps. Remember that their anger isn't really about you. I know it feels like it's about you. They're yelling at you, saying your name, listing all the things you did wrong. But their anger is about them. About something inside them that got triggered. Maybe they felt disrespected, or powerless, or scared, or ignored. The anger is just the surface. Underneath is a wound. And when you can see that wound instead of just the anger, everything changes. An FBI negotiator dealing with an angry hostage taker doesn't take the anger personally. They look underneath it. It sounds like you feel like you've been backed into a corner with no good options. That sentence does something incredible. It acknowledges the anger without engaging with it. It says, I see you. I see what's really happening here, and I'm not afraid of your feelings. And when someone feels truly seen like that, the anger starts to drain away, because anger is usually just pain trying to be heard. Here's a real story that shows this in action. There was a woman barricaded in her apartment, threatening to kill herself. Police surrounded the building. Hours went by. Every negotiator who tried talking to her failed. She wouldn't engage, wouldn't come out, was getting more agitated. Then a new negotiator took over. and instead of trying to convince her to come out, he said something different. It sounds like things have gotten so heavy that ending it feels like the only way to make the pain stop. He wasn't agreeing with her. He wasn't encouraging her. He was just naming what he thought she was feeling, and she started crying and talking, really talking, about the divorce, the job loss, the isolation. 3 hours later, she came out, not because he convinced her, but because he understood her. That's the power of tactical empathy. It creates connection where logic creates walls. Now let's address the elephant in the room. What if you're wrong? What if you label someone's emotion and you get it completely wrong? Here's the beautiful thing. That's okay. In fact, it can work in your favor. If you say it sounds like you're frustrated and they say no, I'm not frustrated, I'm disappointed. Guess what just happened? They corrected you. Which means they told you exactly what they're feeling. Now you know, now you can reflect that back. You're right, I hear you. You're not frustrated, you're disappointed, and they feel hurt because you listened when they corrected you. FBI negotiators actually use this intentionally sometimes. They'll slightly mislabel an emotion on purpose because they know the person will correct them and reveal what's really going on. It's called a strategic mislabel. And it works because people love correcting others. It makes them feel smart and in control. So don't be afraid to get it wrong. Being wrong and listening is better than being silent. Let me give you some specific phrases you can use right now. These are direct from FBI negotiation training. When someone's upset, it seems like this has been really hard for you. When someone's attacking you, it sounds like you're angry. Help me understand what I did that made you feel that way. When someone makes an unreasonable demand, how am I supposed to do that? When you don't want to say yes or no, what would you like me to do about that? When they're not telling you everything, it seems like there's something else bothering you. Notice how all of these do the same thing. They create space. They show curiosity. They don't defend or attack. They invite the other person to be understood. Now here's where it gets really interesting. This technique doesn't just work in arguments. It works in negotiations too. Let's say you're trying to negotiate salary. Most people walk in with their number and try to justify it. I deserve $80,000 because I have this experience and these qualifications and the market rate is. And the employer immediately starts thinking of reasons to say no. But if you use tactical empathy, the conversation goes completely differently. You might say, I know hiring is expensive and you have a budget to consider. It seems like you want to bring someone in who can make an immediate impact without breaking the bank. Suddenly, you're on the same side. You're acknowledging their concerns. You're making them feel understood. And when people feel understood, they want to help you. Then you can ask a calibrated question. What would need to be true for us to make this work at $80,000? Now they're not defending their position. They're problem solving with you. This is the difference between adversarial negotiation and collaborative problem solving. The FBI learned this because they had to. In hostage situations, adversarial negotiation gets people killed. The only way to resolve those situations is to make the hostage taker feel like you're working with them, not against them. Same principle applies to your boss, your partner, your kids, anyone. Now I want to talk about something that might seem contradictory. Sometimes you need to let people say no. We're taught that no is bad, that we should avoid it, that getting someone to say yes is a goal. But FBI negotiators actually try to get people to say no early, because no makes people feel safe. When someone says no, they feel in control. They feel like they have power, like they're not being trapped. And when people feel in control and safe, they're much more willing to eventually say yes to something else. So instead of asking, do you want to work together on this? Which pressures them into yes or no, you ask, is now a bad time to talk? Would it be crazy if we considered this option? Do you want me to just give up on this? These invite no. And no feels good. It releases pressure. And once they've said no to something, they're actually more likely to say yes to what you really want. This is called no-oriented questions, and they're incredibly powerful. Let me show you how this works in real life. Your teenager doesn't want to do their homework. You could say, "Will you please do your homework?" which just creates a fight. Or you could say, "Is it a bad idea for you to do your homework before going out with friends?" They might say no, it's not a bad idea, and boom. They just agreed to do homework without you forcing them. Or they might say yes, it is a bad idea because. And now they're explaining their reasoning, which helps you understand what's really going on. Either way, you're in a better place than do your homework, which just triggers rebellion. Here's another ninja technique FBI negotiators use: mirroring. This is so simple it almost seems stupid, but it works shockingly well. You just repeat the last few words of what someone said. As a question, let's say someone says, "I can't do that. It's too expensive." You respond, "Too expensive?" And then you shut up. And they'll explain, "Yeah, too expensive. We don't have that kind of budget right now. Things have been tight since the layoffs." Now you have way more information than you had before. All because you repeated 2 words. Mirroring does something psychological. It makes people feel heard. And it makes them want to elaborate. It's like you're saying, "Tell me more about that," without actually saying it. FBI negotiators use this constantly because it keeps people talking. And the more someone talks, the more you understand them. And the more you understand them, the easier it is to find a solution that works. Now let's talk about what to do when someone brings up something you did wrong. Because this is where most people completely blow it. Someone says, "You were late again. You're always late. You don't respect my time." Your instinct is to defend yourself. "I'm not always late. Traffic was bad. It's not my fault." But that just escalates the fight. Because now you're telling them their feelings are wrong. Instead, FBI negotiators use a technique called the accusation audit. You list all the negative things they might think about you. Before they say them, "You're right, I was late. And I know this isn't the first time. You probably think I don't care about your time. That I'm disrespectful. That I always have an excuse." Watch what happens. They can't yell at you about things you've already admitted to. The wind goes out of their sails. Because you beat them to it. And now they're in a position where they almost have to defend you. Well, I wouldn't say you're always disrespectful. You just flip the script. Not by arguing, by agreeing with their worst thoughts about you. This is incredibly powerful. Because it shows you're not afraid of their judgment. You're owning it. And when you own your mistakes, people soften. Because they were ready for a fight and you gave them understanding instead. Here's the thing about all of these techniques. They work because they're built on a simple truth about human psychology. People are not logical creatures. We're emotional creatures who sometimes use logic to justify our emotions. You can't logic someone out of a position they didn't logic themselves into. But you can create emotional safety, and in that safety, people can actually think clearly enough to change their minds. This is why facts and evidence don't change people's minds in arguments. Because the argument isn't about facts. It's about feeling threatened or dismissed or wrong. When you remove the threat, facts actually matter again. Let me share one more story that brings us all together. A man kidnapped his ex-girlfriend. He was armed, barricaded in a house, threatening to kill her and himself. Police tried everything, commands, threats, reasoning. Nothing worked. He got more agitated. Then the FBI negotiator tried something different. He said, "It sounds like you love her so much that the thought of losing her feels unbearable. Like your whole world is falling apart." The man started crying. "Yes, that's exactly it. She's everything. And it seems like you feel like if you can't have her, you'd rather end everything than face that pain. Yes. What do you want her to know? What do you want her to understand about how you feel?" And the man started talking, really talking, about his fears. his pain, his love, for hours. Later, he surrendered. The woman was safe. The negotiator never argued, never said you're wrong to feel this way, never tried to logic him out of his feelings. He just helped him feel understood, and in that understanding, the man could finally think clearly enough to make a different choice. That's the power of tactical empathy, not to manipulate, but to connect so deeply that change becomes possible. Now, I want to be really clear about something. This isn't about being passive or letting people walk all over you. Understanding someone's feelings doesn't mean accepting bad behavior. You can say it sounds like you're really angry right now and still maintain boundaries. You can say I hear that this is frustrating for you and still say no to unreasonable demands. Tactical empathy doesn't mean agreement. It means acknowledgement. And acknowledgement is powerful because it costs you nothing but gives them everything they actually need. So here's how you start using this today, right now. Next time someone disagrees with you or gets upset, resist the urge to defend or explain. Instead, try this sentence. It sounds like emotion because situation. It sounds like you're frustrated because this keeps happening. It seems like you're worried because you don't have enough information. It sounds like you're disappointed because you expected something different. Then stop talking. Wait. Watch what happens. You'll see their shoulders drop, their voice soften, their walls come down, because you just did something most people never do. You made them feel seen. And once someone feels seen, everything else gets easier. This isn't manipulation. This isn't a trick. This is just being human with each other. It's remembering that beneath every argument, every fight, every disagreement, there's a person who wants to be understood. Just like you. And when the people both feel understood, arguments stop being about winning. They become about solving. That's what the FBI figured out. That's what hostage negotiators know. And now you know it too. If this changed how you think about conflict, subscribe to this channel. Because we're exploring the hidden psychology behind human behavior, the things that actually work, not just what sounds good. And drop a comment telling me about a time you wish you'd known this technique. What argument could you have handled differently? Because we're all learning this together. And your story might help someone else.